Alright, so let's talk about this city, which is my newest city in City Skylines with the Sunset Harbor DLC and update. So this update brings us several changes, including fishing harbors, the flying club, or whatever they call it, which allows you to build airports with private planes that don't go anywhere, and also you also have helicopters as an option for public transit. And also, so yeah, those are the main changes. So we have heliports, we have the, oh yeah, right. The main change, the biggest change is the Intercity Bus Line, which people have been asking for ages. So so now with the DLC, so that's not available in the base game, DLC will buy it, you can get the Intercity Bus Station. There are several Intercity Bus Stations, and then if you build, and they're fairly big and huge, you will be able to get intercity passengers through roads, which is good for small towns like this one, because it means that you can get away with not having a rail or a passenger airport. Unfortunately, the intercity bus station is still pretty big. I personally would prefer more of just a bus stop, like being able to accept intercity buses at a designated bus stop instead of this huge building. But that would be for like really small towns that are probably like satellite towns to a nearby larger city, because well, I guess there's different, bus stops, and if you're a really small town, then you don't really need a terminal building. You can just get away with just having a shed, or a covered area, and having a bus stop, just like a regular bus stop. So in terms of transportation, the only form of intercity transportation available is the road. So in terms of the actual path you get in and out is a road. So this airport, in real life, you would be able to fly away, but here this airport doesn't go anywhere. This town is called Field Ahead because when flying during one of the briefings we do before flying is that we will brief where we would try to ditch the plane if the engine fails at a low altitude. So the idea is that since we have this field ahead of the airport, and so I just call this town Field Head. Now we also had airports have been in City Skylines a long time, but in the past we only had exclusively passenger airports, so which spawned by default jet planes that don't really need to worry about a complete loss of power. The famous incident of Miracle on Hudson is so famous because it's so rare. It's such a improbable event. So anyway, the road connection we have that feeds outside is this connector that goes in. As you can see, it's an asymmetric design. So for the outbound roads, we have a sort of standard sort of trumpet thing with just one lane that connects both cars coming from the west side and cars coming from the east side. So cars coming from the west side get this overpass and then can cross above, so move across the oncoming traffic to exit the city. So we have a fairly nice merge here with a rock that intrudes slightly into the ramp here. So this is I am dipping into psychological road design with this rock, because in terms of speed limits, I have these roads set to 40, which, as with all my city skylines creations, even though it displays kilometers an hour, I read kilometers per hour as miles per hour, because that's what the game feels like. So I have the speed at the merge point set to 40, but as you know, if you have a nice straight road like this, drivers don't tend to follow that 40 speed limit, and so what you do is you put a rock or some kind of obstruction that makes the road appear, or in this case, actually reduces the amount of room you have, the amount of pavement you have, and as a result, drivers tend to slow down more, and then that makes this merging environment safer. So the asymmetry here is due to the fact that on the inbound road, you have an at-grade intersection. So this distribution road that connects to the intercity outbound and inbound roads serves both as a distributor for inbound and outbound traffic, as well as traffic looking to quickly move, looking for a shortcut from the between the east and west sides of the island. It's not really an island, but just between the east and west sides of the city. So at this intersection, both the cars approaching from the west and the cars approaching from the east yield to the cars approaching from yield to the cars arriving to the city. And so both sides only have to move the cars from one direction. And there are a couple other ways to manage this intersection. So, for example, this could be treated as a left turn where the car approaching from, so this side is the west side, so this could be treated as a left turn where you have this road that's being treated as a continuous road, and in fact, because the intersection angle here is small enough that the game does treat this as a treat the right turn as sort of a straight-on thing, so that you could also have the left-turning vehicles yield to the cars approaching from the east, which in this case would be considered oncoming traffic. So there are a couple ways to manage the yield signs on this intersection, but I prefer this way. So it's I think it's the safest and most efficient, because the biggest traffic movement comes from the inbound lanes, and then these two roads are only very occasionally used by cars that are doing intra-city transportation. So so you might be wondering why the outbound road has been slimmed down to just one lane, while the inbound road is still 3 lanes. Well, this is a legacy of the fact that because when building every city skylines, city, assuming no one wait forever, with the mass immigration wave, you're going to get a huge backed up ramp, and so this large, having 3 lanes helps relieve that. But this could, right now, this road could be slimmed down to 1 lane without too much effect on traffic. So this city employs lots of use of traffic lights at, for example, this crucial high-speed road where I feel that traffic lights are necessary to stop, to allow both pedestrians to cross and to allow cars to cross without a pedestrian and car conflict or collision. So we have lights set to 2-minute cycles, where every 2 minutes the pedestrians will get a chance to cross the pedestrian light. So we have one right now. So the light is, because the speed limits here are set to 80 kilometers an hour, so the car signal waits for 8 seconds before the pedestrians are allowed to pass, and then the pedestrian light turns green and red immediately, and then this red signal lasts for approximately a bit more than 10 seconds. In real life that would be a lot longer, but City Skylines sims move pretty fast even with the reduced pedestrian speed mod. So this allows this road to largely function as a high-speed highway, but still with very minor interruptions that allow pedestrians to cross through safely. So other than these two big highways, the rest of the, well, most of the roads in this city are just two-lane highways that do not contain any sort of traffic lights. So for example, here we just have a plain old yield sign. Old yield. I wish Traffic Manager came with sort of a yield sign mod so that if you set it to yield, then it would spawn a yield sign. I still haven't figured out how to use yield signs in game, even though they are available on the asset store. I mean asset mods, for free. For free on the Steam Workshop. So anyway, this highway mostly works. Like none of it ever really gets backed up, except for like huge immigration waves for this city here on the southeast of the island. But the rest of the city, but the rest of but the rest of this small city is more or less your, standard busy but low density place. So here we have the harbor. So it's not really a harbor, just a fishing harbor with boats. I don't see any boats right now. I don't know why they're not. Oh, here's one. So I do manually limit the speed of boats to 20, because their default is I think 40, which is kind of quick. It seems like speedboat. Although I think speedboats can probably get up to 60, but still, 40 seems way too fast for a fishing boat. Then again, I'm not too familiar with boats, so who knows. So now we have this farm, which it's mostly here for cosmetic purposes. I've got the budget panel for industry set to minimum because I don't want to see tons of traffic on these dirt roads. So we also have this riding stable. All of these added together, and as well as this cemetery, which for purely gameplay-wise you want to avoid because you don't want anything that has limited storage capacity, but in terms of aesthetics, it does add to the low density flavor. And so we have a few different farm industry buildings spread around here, and then here you can also create the look of a farm just by using a fence. The fence that's included in the farming industry buildings objects. So that would allow you to make this look like part of the farm without actually being functional in any way. So that makes it more of a problem. So here we have the small town of Ditchtown, which is the field ahead of the airport. Now I should say that it's actually the field behind of the airport because landing traffic approaches from, so right now up is north, so landing traffic approaches from the west, and then departing traffic departs to the west as well. So essentially planes don't really get a chance to ditch into the farmland area unless they are trying to go around, for example, aborting a landing. So that's the only scenario in which planes would ditch into the farm, which I mean, it's not very realistic because we have planes spawning on the runway. I would like to see a bit more permanence of vehicles in the game, and also in real life, unless this runway, unless there's a solid object that's blocking the end of the one end of the field, planes would just take off and land in the wind at all times. So just like the airport in regular city skylines, but I mean the regular passenger airport. So at this airport area, I've also added a few warehouses to make it look like it should be part of an airport. I think these two contribute to the look. And over here we have our helipads. So I'm using several cheats well, they're not really cheats, they're more realism modifiers. So I've turned off everything that you wouldn't regularly see around. So for example, it's not realistic for a city of any size to be having, to be getting emergencies back to back to back to back. So I don't have medical emergencies turned on. I don't have police emergencies turned on. I don't have fire emergencies turned on because that's also a pain in the ass to deal with, because if a building burns down because the fire trucks took a stupid route or whatever, then you have to if it's a unique building such as or a manual replaced building such as a power plant, then you'll have to manually sort of reconstruct it, which is a pain in the ass. So I don't do that. So I'm using a few custom roads in this city. So as you may have noticed, my thing is removing streetlights and removing any sort of extraneous objects in order to replicate a sort of more cleaner, less developed look. So all of these highways are just basic pavement without any streetlights or signs or whatnot. I've also switched from a more rectangular generic parking space to this long parking lot because I feel that it manages the amount of road space better. But the thing with parking in Traffic Manager is that vehicles don't always enter the parking lot from the point where they connect to the road. So for example, on the parking lot over here, cars will, as you can see, even though the road is this road, it's actually attached to this right on the right here. But this truck thing entered from the left. So where you connect the road is not a guarantee that that's where the cars will park at, which is a problem when you're trying to sort of control access to a road. For example, in the city, I've designed the city with one of my favorite public transportation systems, which is to section off a road, cut off a road from access of regular traffic, and then only allow bus traffic. But occasionally a car or truck will make its way into this system, and it's not because there are any gaps or anything, but just because of how parking works. So sometimes a car will just leave a building or leave its parking space and then end up in this public transportation road system. So the traffic lights used in this city vary widely. So for example, in Ditchtown, the only instance of a traffic light is in this sort of town center, where we have if you head to the south and eastern direction, you end up in the residential areas, and then if you head north, you go into the farms, and then if you head west, you go into, we have a botanical garden, a library, and a park, as well as a few local businesses. So I think this light makes sense. I'm also using the function of traffic manager that allows junction restrictions. So I've just allowed pedestrian crossings here, which allows me to just use phases for the cars and then not have to worry about pedestrians intruding. So pedestrians instead should cross at the crossings here that are at intersections adjacent to the four-way intersections. Here, 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 and here are where pedestrians are expected to cross. Of course, in real life, they probably won't. And in real life, you wouldn't have this kind of crossing, but you would want to displace the pedestrian crossing further away from the intersection, so that they only have to look left and right instead of having to look in the whole direction of the crossing. So the city of Siftarf, which Siftarf is just a rearrangement of the word traffic, because, well, right now it doesn't have a ton of traffic, but it's the city where traffic is most likely, and the reason is because it's also the city with the highest usage of traffic lights. So not only do the public transport network use traffic lights, which allows passengers to cross the road to board public transportation in the opposite direction, and allows public transportation to have at-grade intersections with the main road. But it also facilitates protected turns and pedestrian crossings in the rest of the city. And because of this, so these traffic lights are set at fairly quick phases. So for cars, a phase typically will not last more than 3 or 4 seconds. So basically, it's, the idea is quite similar to basically being a multi-way stop, except it's enforced using traffic lights. So on three-way intersections, we have a protected left, followed by permissive phasing with both directions. So right now we have a protected left, and then permissive. Then these traffic lights turn off, and then the side road gets green for like 3 seconds, and then before the light turns red, and then so yeah. So by giving public transportation its exclusive roads, that means that no matter how much the city jams up, and trust me, this city did jam up a lot during the first immigration wave, and also when and also during rush hour, basically during high traffic periods. So right now I'm, like with all my cities, I'm using the rush hour mod, or the real-time mod as it's now called. So yeah, this city jams up a lot, but the public transport, these, which are essentially bus lanes, bus roads actually, because they're only exclusively for transit shuttles that are using as buses. But they will never jam up, so that's good. I like this instead of the trams or metro or train systems, because of their flexibility, because we get the flexibility of having these tiny cars essentially, and also because crossings between buses and cars are much simpler than crossings between trains and cars. Since in city skylines, trains basically always have right-of-way, so that becomes a huge problem if you're trying to if you have a at-grade crossing with a lot of train traffic, then basically there's very rarely an opening for cars to cross. Meanwhile, right here, we'll have the public transport crossing, and then after just a few moments, cars will be allowed to cross. And then with this could also be set to permissive phasing. I mean, we could just also use a plain old stop sign or yield sign, in which case the efficiency would be even higher. But then you would lose the protection from crashing. So one thing I really hate seeing is crashes. So that's something I always try to avoid having, and that's why I always try to set the speeds at intersections to be low, and yes, so by setting speeds at intersections to be low, and by putting traffic lights with pedestrian phasings, it helps reduce the amount of crashes I see. Because, crashes drive me nuts. So the bus lanes, they have their own bus depot, as well as their own incineration plant that mainly just exclusively serves to manage the trash from the bus depot. So this allows me to cut off the network from outside traffic entirely without having the bus depot stop working because of too much trash. Now, of course, in real life, you could just carry that trash to this side of the road, and then have a garbage truck take that away. But the game is janky and flawed, and that's just how it is. So with public transport in this network, basically I have two lines on the ring road, so one runs clockwise, one runs counterclockwise, and they stop at each of the four. Well, they stop at each intersection, so because intersections are also the places where people can cross the road to access the opposite buses. The buses like going the opposite way, so each intersection. And I have an additional windmill line which goes across the city, so with a stop in the middle. So it'll go basically like this, 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 and this. So that kind of loop also allows the there to be more passengers. So finally we have the so this right here is just a small residential area, and then here's where most of the power in this city is generated. And then over here we have the city that I started with. So here we have a fairly we have high density buildings, but I don't think traffic lights are needed because, just look at it. It actually doesn't have that much traffic, even though there's a lot of people around. So I think I can get away with not having traffic lights in there. Over in this higher density area, crossing the road is crossing the main road, so crossing this steep road is actually not allowed. But then once we get to this high density or this thickly settled low density residential area, then crossing the road is allowed. So we have our only hotel here, and other commercial and residential buildings. And over here we have some more low density residences, that allow foot access to the city, as well as a factory. So this is kind of a steep road here, but I think cars, trucks will be able to make it up, like in real life. I think this is going to be a bit of a climb, but you know, with enough gearing, it shouldn't be an issue. So right here we have the bus stop, and that's how we will get in and out of. That's the first bus station built in this city, and then we also have a bus station somewhere in this city as well. And then we have a disaster shelter here. So that's nice, although disaster shelters are not very good. Like, water, food, and power drains too quickly. Which, you know, is fine for a game, but not when you're trying to play in realistic mode. So in order to access the top of this mountain and the various leisure establishments, the various entertainment establishments, you're going to go up this hill, and then make a left here, and then follow this dirt road up. So I've tried to minimize the grade on this road. I think, you know, it's not perfect, but it's definitely not as steep as, you know, with this stock as the game allows it to go. And then up here we also have a helicopter stop. I've shut off all the helicopter lines because, you know, I want people to use the vans, but I don't want them to use helicopters. Like if I turn on the helicopter lines, or if I draw a helicopter line from here to here to here, then, you know, I'll just get, you know, there will just be too many people, and the helicopters, you know, even though I can edit their capacities, but the helicopters by default only hold 20. So I wish City Skylines had a. So there's a policy in City Skylines called free public transport, but I don't know whether they categorize helicopters as a public transport, or whether they categorize, you know, all the things other than buses and trains. So I guess I don't know if it distinguishes between public transport and mass transit, because a taxi is public, but it's not mass transit. Helicopters, same thing. They're public, but they certainly can't be deployed at scale without significant drawbacks. So I don't know. Anyway, up here we also have our one windmill, which is there just for show, as well as a few towers and our water tower. So in terms of bus lines, not only do we have the intra-city bus lines of Siftar, we also have the inter-town or intercity bus line that runs through the entire city. So as we can see here, our intertown bus line goes, basically it stops basically everywhere, including this small town, including the big city, including the peak of the mountain hill thing, including this smaller city, including the airport, including the warehouse area, and including the fishing place. So with the fishing industry, there are several buildings, but I really do not like that the structure by default has the standard default road. So the harbors spawn with the road. I wish it would spawn without the road. And I have actually not tested this, but yeah, you cannot change the road of the harbor, which sucks. It should not be the case. The harbor should not have a attached road. You know, like, you know, the restaurant pier, which I apparently reclaimed some land of, but I'm fine with that. But the restaurant pier can be built without an attached road, but this seems to, I don't know, I guess I don't know how they arrived at this conclusion. Maybe they, who knows. I mean, I guess there would be some technical reason why they had to spawn this with a road. But if it isn't a technical limitation, but just a design choice, then it's a bad design choice, because players should have the freedom to choose what roads the harbors spawn with without having to go into the mods. So with the fishing buildings, there are several. So we have fishing harbors for collecting raw fish, and the fish can be processed in fish factories and then sold on the fish market, or exported, I think. So there are a few options. Yeah. So we have fish farms, we have all sorts of buildings. So I guess if you're into fishing, there's that. But it's not really. I mean, it's good. It's a good way to add boat traffic to your city. The Aero Club is a good way to add airplane traffic to your city. Although I wish it wasn't part of the. I wish it could spawn less planes, basically, because this is a lot of planes, and I don't think I don't think it's necessarily safe or good for so many planes to be in such a small area. And they're also displaying, I don't know. Anyway, now that I've taken you through a tour of the city, let's just take a break and look at some scenery. So I'd like to talk just a bit more about the pedestrian access available in this city. So there are basically no pedestrian crossings for this ring road, so anything on the outside of the ring road can only be accessed by either jaywalking or just taking a vehicle of some kind. But within the ring, there's lots of pedestrian connections. So for example, this entire Mount Peak and city area is connected to the bigger city via pedestrian paths. So we have a third path going into this small city, going to these I mean, they seem like slums. So going through these tightly packed, this densely settled area, and then over here we have more. So because it's the fancy city, so we have the better pedestrian path with the paved roads and the streetlights. And then, as I said in the beginning of this video, these we also have pedestrian paths that are allowed to wait here and cross the road into both the airport and warehouse complexes, as well as pedestrian paths into the town with the ditch. And then over here, so this fence is intended to sort of simulate private property, so I'm trying to simulate this entire thing, so everything behind the fence is part of their private farm. So I guess technically, even though there is a connection under this this bridge that came with this map, so there is a path here that allows this residential area to access the city this way, but I guess if you cross it and walk through here, you may not be trespassing. Right, so I'm not quite done yet with this video. I also want to show off a few routes just to give a more personal taste of the city. So I think we should start with this intercity bus. So the intercity bus, or the intertown bus, because this entire thing is the city, but the intertown bus connects to the big city of Siftarf by this road, so it doesn't have to so it doesn't have to intrude into the intra-city transport line. Highway is 50, which feels like 50 miles an hour as I was saying, but the screen says 50 kilometers an hour. It's possible that the reason I feel that it seems fast is because this is a City Skylines is a European game. So all the roads are narrower, maybe by default, and so even though I'm using only wide roads in this game, in my city, so I sort of tweak the roads a bit to remove any parking spaces if I feel that the road with parking spaces is too narrow, but still, I don't know, it just feels too fast. 50 kilometers an hour just does not even feel like 50 miles an hour. That's just how this game is. So I really like these small vans. So there's also the Toyota Coaster, which isn't, I don't think it's really used in North America, but the Toyota Coaster is also a good small size transport. So basically vans are pretty great at these low density cities where you don't have a ton of ridership, and so it doesn't make sense to send out a big full-size bus. And in terms of vans, are also great because you can if you can reduce the size of the fleet, so you can reduce the size of vehicles and then increase the frequency of vehicles. Now, of course, the main cost of a van is probably still the driver, but I think it's possible that, I don't really work in buses, so but I imagine that the cost difference between a van and a full-size bus is still pretty substantial. So by increasing the frequency of the vans, we make sure that the service is more convenient, more people will actually use it. And that would be one argument for why you'd want to use vans over larger buses that generally are more efficient if you can increase their, if you can build them. So as you can see right here, we are on the vanilla dirt road, unmodded, so everything's tightly packed. What I really want from a city builder game is just maximum AI. So AI that basically GTA level AI, where the car can drive in the middle of the road. Like a human driver probably would drive in the middle of the road, or at least be more forceful to avoid the parked cars. And if there are no parked cars, then it means to the right. And then if there's an oncoming car, and then you would move back to the right instead of just staying. But I think there are some things probably will never be, and to have that kind of level of precision, you probably wouldn't be able to have a huge city, especially not flying with, but I think one of the selling points of city builders is that you can build a huge city with massive populations, and I guess it's just a philosophy of quality or quantity. And while I personally prefer the form quality, this is still even with its quantity biased focus, this is still the best city builder game by far. And I doubt that most of the traffic, so I know that if you want cars to not crash into each other, one thing you use is traffic simulators, but those I think are for, I don't know, I've never actually used a real traffic simulator, and the ones that only simulate an intersection or two, maybe the free ones you get in access from a web browser, those aren't really that fun. So yeah, we also have taxi stands, but I turned the taxi buildings off as well because I wanted to maximize use of vans. So I'm guessing that if I turn taxis on, then they will reduce the ridership of the vans. Oh, there's someone actually here. So I don't know which version of Vehicle Manager introduced this option, but now you can set a maximum turn rate. So I've got that setting set to 0.05, which means that on a small 90-degree turn, speed will reduce to about maybe 15, which is basically the speed I usually take these more tighter 90-degree turns. That would be something what happened just now. That's something that I would prefer not have. But so one of the things I've done to add some flavor to the inbound and outbound highway is I've extended the area of the farm industry area to the highway so that I can put a few farm fences in the middle to act as a Jersey barrier. Even though, of course, a Jersey barrier made of wood would probably be utterly ineffective. But still, visually, it's better than having nothing separating oncoming roads, or it's better than just having a flat piece of grass. So in this area, because of the relatively low traffic, I think, compared to other parts of this ring road, so I felt comfortable giving every one of these residential buildings a direct connection to the main road. So normally you'd want to cut off. You would want to not have so many small intersections directly on the main road, but rather, combine them into a single residential area with a single access point on the main road. this video doesn't look too immersive because we are flipping through the middle of the dam, so you're seeing a bit of the front wheels. But counterpoint, if I crop the video from bottom, so crop off the bottom of the video and crop off the top, then it'll just look like a really nice wide angle dash cam shot. Or widescreen dash cam shot. Although this is pretty wide angle. But the field of vision, I think right now is, I don't know. Here we have our phase traffic light in action. I think that's the, well, it's not the only traffic light on this road, but it is the traffic lights on this road. We have this market. Together unless they're dog fighting. I don't think I've ever actually seen a water treatment plant so close to the road. That is a complete loop of the entire island. So next up, let's take a look at the now with this line, I really want to emphasize how much I like the fate of the traffic lights, since that's you just use a default traffic light that isn't a timed traffic light, then you wouldn't get the delay of the pedestrian crossings. So you would have, cars trying to turn while pedestrians are still crossing, and that would not be, not even trying to turn, but cars just driving into pedestrians before they've done crossing. Of course, in the default game, pedestrians don't walk this slow, so even this is pretty fast. It's too fast, in fact. Actual people walking is slower, but with the default traffic lights and the default pedestrian speed, they're actually a pretty good fit. As you can see, we've also managed to keep any other vehicle outside of this public transport exclusive road, and another benefit is pavement is, I think, cheaper than rails, and you get the safety benefits of tires being good for stopping. As well as, I think, lower maintenance costs as well, since you only have the cost of a few vans versus big trains. So the downside is, without rails, a human driver with human steering could mess up, but how often does that happen? Especially on buses. I don't think it rarely or ever happens at all. And then you also get the flexibility that if there's a jam on this, if there's a jam in the system, then you just drive around it, as long as there's other pavement available. Now the downside is, of course, buses don't carry as much people, which isn't a huge problem in lower density settings where ridership is great, but if you're trying to have maximum amount of passengers, then you'll want to if you want the maximum amount of passengers, then you'll want to have wider trains linked together in a long train, which I guess is the point of trains. But I think, for example, in small towns and stuff, this would be the way to have public transport with its own exclusive road. But I think even in a mid-sized city, it's very plausible that, well, of course, then you have higher employment costs, higher payroll costs, but maybe 10 buses can replace one train. but because those 10 buses can be spaced further apart, then you get more convenience, and you don't have people waiting like 30 minutes for the next bus. I mean, for the next bus or the next train. You're gonna get more frequent lines. That's probably the only useful part of the line during. So right now the game time is I think around 3 p.m., which is not quite rush hour. So, but during rush hour, people do use the other parts of the route. That's a bad thing. Can't be. And the reason that Jeep is in here is because of that helipad. next, there's more things I want to show, but so for one, I do want to try to get the video from these things. So landing does not necessarily mean taking off, because it'll disappear after it lands. But it should mean a new one will probably spawn soon. Oops, hold on. Hey, this one's not great, but... Alright, let's just see what this does. So yeah, I have, again, using the advanced vehicle options, I have been You two are definitely landing. Sorry. My camera gets stopped by this drop-off here. But there's one last thing. I do want to show off the helicopters. So we have to go here and start setting up some helicopter lines. So we'll just do a simple one. We'll start at the airport. Go through the city. Go to the outer part of the city. Oh, that's really the route you're going to take. Right, then I guess we'll delete that. I don't know. Yeah, we'll keep that in. What if after this we go here? After that, it would really just retrace our steps back there. Okay then, I guess. This loop works. And then we'll add a separate line from the mountain to this teleport. Alright. And now we wait for the elevators to start. just change the color of the other helicopter line to something other than pink. Let's go with green. Alright. Where is that helicopter? Actually, let's just send out one more. Let's not anymore. Just catch them as they spawn. This is an instance of the helicopter replacing the van. I'm sure that some of the passengers that exited boarded after the city center. It's not the intention of that line. Making public transportation free is good, but not so good in my helicopters as public transportation, although I'm sure that's not the only reason that passengers aren't lining up. Another great game for virtual helicopter rides is Arma. Yeah, like my top installers just have it for now. You know, set up a helicopter route. Walk around private vehicle and then you pass it on a helicopter. This way. And then if that helicopter is armed, then you can shoot your gun or something. On board. Not quite done yet with this video. I'm just gonna fast forward the game a bit. Change the speed to maybe 4. Let's actually take a look at the congestion of the city. So yeah, most of the places are quite good. This is a high traffic area, this is a high traffic area, but the rest really, you know, not much traffic to speak of. But also to speed up, since none of the cars in this game, as I've configured it, none of the cars speed. So let's see what, nope, don't do that. Let's see what time is work end hour. 1800, that's not bad. So let's just speed up the day all the way to a factor of 6. Oh, by the way, yeah. These 2 helicopter mines would skew the results a bit. Let's disable them since I've already showed them off. And now they're all rushing back to the helipad. I wish the game would show them actually getting pushed into the hangar instead of just being, well, 7 already? Dang. Okay. Let's change the time back to a factor of 1. Alright, so we still don't have any streetlights yet. But as you can see, we've got some cars on the roads. Quite a few people here, though not as much as in the other intersections. Here. And it's really rush hour. And how many of these people will head towards the ring? I guess this system could be enhanced by adding lines here, adding a stop here or something. Right now we don't have a stop here. But oh well, I mean, this whole city is essentially like 2 roads. 2 ring roads. One, the inner loop, and the outer. And then that's it. So it's not surprising if people don't want to actually... If people, like, nobody really needs to take the bus this long. So some Sunset Harbor scenery. Not quite sunset just yet. Getting close. We got those nice god rays. You know, it's these moments that can keep you staring at a completed or nearly completed city for hours. I'm just gonna delete a few water trees. Nope, you don't grow on water. It's Like there's no trees and water. And look at this. It's a pretty. Oh, it's not simple. It's less simple than some more complicated cities, and certainly less simple than real life cities. But still, for what it is, it's relatively simple, and yet still captivating. Okay, now let's really speed up the time of it and get to the real sunset. So the reason I know this side is west is because that's the side where the sun is. So actually this isn't the... Well, I guess I made a comparative. This is the eastern spur, this is more the northern spur. Oh well. 11 or... Well, I'm here complaining that this game has many deficiencies, but, you know, honestly, it does look incredible, despite its many issues. That's not the right place to, sit down. Yeah, now we got that red sky. Actual sunset. Let me slow down time again, so I can enjoy the sunset for all that it is, maybe on the outside. Let's change spots. Let's take a look from inside the city. Street. Overbuilt bus stop. College with about 5 billion parking spaces. Factory. At the foot of a cliff. Got some lights. Lack of traffic signs is, and I mentioned this in why is he barely through? I am pretty sure that you are red. Huh. I mean, it's probably a bug in I don't know why. Anyway, one of the ways I'm managing the lack of visible traffic signs is just that, all of the intersections are T-intersections. So if you are the side road, it's just implied that you have to yield. The only place where that both does not have a traffic light and where this is slightly untrue is this intersection. So, but it doesn't really come up in the majority of the city, so that's not a huge problem. Alright. Strike cornfields. Oh, that's not a good look. Now let's drive on the street. Pretty good, although the city's problems doesn't really have any. Sounds cool. The nice thing about smaller cities is that vehicles don't completely despawn. So you can still see some of the vehicles. If you zoom out even further, for example like this, then you can only see lights. So let's get the city into just full night mode. It's theoretically already 10, yet we still have that sun there. Oh yeah, this map comes with Aurora Borealis. Right, sky is completely blue now. We can slow the both the time and gain speed back now. So the nighttime of this city looks pretty good as well because of the options in the mod real time. You can see a difference between buildings that still have lights on and buildings that don't. So for example, the the lower density settlements are completely dark. Residential buildings are also darkened. For example, this town is almost completely unlit except for Main Street. When we zoom in closer, we can see that the only lights are coming from the cars themselves. So yeah, nighttime scenery of this game is pretty great. Of course, in real life, a city like this would probably be full of streetlights. So that is something that is not very realistic. This adjacent street. So you really don't have to worry about visibility too much. You've also got lights from adjacent buildings, so there's still some illumination on the streets. Just not as much as it could be. Not as much as there could be. Alright, so that about does it for my video. Thanks for watching.